I I wanted to confirm my ID in the field. And so I actually emailed Dave, and he said that actually they're thinking this Chalciporus piperatus parasitizes Amanita chrysoblema, which you see on the right. And he said it would be cool to find a picture of them both in situ. And that was really hard. I mean, there was plenty of them, but they were just far enough away from each other that it was like really difficult to get a good shot. But that's the bolete on the left, and yeah, and it definitely is a relationship. It seems very obvious that there's a relationship going on, and I don't know if Dave wants to chime in more about this parasitism that I guess was Michael Quebec had said is a thing. I haven't had a chance to look into it because I wanted to get a picture of them both together, because of course I had failed to do that originally. So I went back, and this was the best I could do because they just weren't, they were about this far away from each other all the time.
Yeah, it's the first I've heard of this sort of ecology for Chalciporus piperatus. I just went to Mycoquebec when I saw your photos, and that's when I read about that. I'm not sure how long that has been proposed, but that photo is pretty good actually. It's, you can see both types of mushrooms pretty clearly. So the only thing here is that I think Piperatoides is the one that Mycoquebec says has pores that bruise really dark brown, almost black. So I don't know how dependable that is. I think there might be a slight difference in spore size. So, but those two species are pretty similar.
I did try to bruise it, and it seemed to just kind of like turn dark brown, but not even stay that, like it was just kind of the color of
I see. I see.
yeah,
It's just the material is compressed and
yes,
damaged. Yeah, so it's not a real bruise.
yep. I
Right.
didn't I didn't
That,
get
that
that.
makes sense. Yeah. So you got Piperatus here is it looks pretty certain.
Okay, and so some people will use this as pepper or something. They'll dry it, and because it is really spicy. But otherwise I don't think it's really eaten much, right?
I've never eaten it.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah, so it was kind of nice to was really my first bolete of the year. I haven't found a single one yet, so I was pretty excited. And then this, I'm pretty certain it's Tremellodendron schweinitzii. Um, it was very young. I mean, this is barely out of the ground. It's really tiny actually. And I touched it, and it has that very stiff feel that Tremellodendron schweinitzii has. Um, and so I was just happy to see it. It's like a mainstay every summer, but this is the first of the year for me. So it was nice to see.
Cool.
Yeah, that's neat. And it I don't know much more about it.
Right. Cool.
And then I've
Oh,
got
they're also
Inat-
anatros. Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's see.
Yep, and then this is also sort of like a June regular. I consider June pretty boring personally in my oak woodlands. But you know, I remembered when I saw this that there are a few notables. And this is one of them. It's Helvella. I guess they call it levis now, but latispora is what I learned it as, but it's the same thing. And I took a spore print. I got a real nice spore print, and I did a little microscopy, and the spores are on the next picture, and they're really neat. They have this huge droplet in the center that kind of makes them look like a cat eye or something. Can you zoom in a little more?
Yeah.
Yeah. So those were really fun. And so yeah, and that's it for me this week. I've been suffering from COVID, and so just doing what I can. So
I'm at Tremellodendron, so I'm not sure if there's universal agreement, but some mycologists now put that species in genus Sebacina, and there's another
Yeah.
Sebacina that looks kind of like this. I'm thinking here about the spiky sort of fruit bodies are kind of interesting for Sebacina schweinitzii, Tremellodendron schweinitzii. So there's another one that Michael Quebec has that's called Sebacina sparasoidea.
yes,
Sparasoio, oi, sparasoidea. And that one seems kind of spiky. So I'm not sure how you would tell.
my
Uh,
understanding that is that that one's a lot more jelly like you can see in these pictures.
ah,
Yeah,
ah,
it's pretty easy to tell apart. I found it a few times, and it's very jelly-like.
I see. Okay. Yeah, Michael Quebec says um, cartilaginous gelatinized. So that seems to coincide with what you're saying.
Yeah,
Okay.
and the other one's like stiff, really stiff, like cardboard almost.
Yes, that
Yeah,
one is really should be really stiff. And in my experience, um, Sebacina schweinitzii, Tremellodendron schweinitzii is it it doesn't always look the same.
yeah,
Yeah, it's sort of variable the way that it looks. The one thing that's constant is it's always white and it's always very firm, as you said.
yeah. Yeah, I like both these mushrooms. The Sebacina schweinitzii, that's one of my favorites. I hope to get to see some.
Yeah, no, that's the same thing as Tremellodendron pallidum. So that's the same thing you showed.
What is?
Your
Oh,
first the first thing you showed was it was Tremellodendron schweinitzii, right?
oh yeah, yeah. I mean sporacioides. Is the
Oh, I
I
see. Okay.
really
Yeah,
really like
I
that.
just wanted to make sure. Yeah,
Yeah, thank you.
you
No,
realize
this
it.
is the same one, and look how different it looks. Right.
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah.
Oh
I've had a
no.
few people disagree with some of my Sebacina schweinitzii observations because they just think it looks way wrong. But when I looked at spores, at least the spores agreed with what they should look like for this species.
So is Tremellodendron the old name then?
Yeah,
Now?
a long time ago it was Tremellodendron pallidum, I think, and
Okay.
then it was Tremellodendron schweinitzii, and then I think somebody wanted to transfer it to genus Sebacina. I think that's the progression.
Yeah, that
Of
sounds
the taxon.
right.
Yeah.
There's all the names.
Okay, but it's Sebacina. Okay, good. All right. Well, thanks. Thanks for letting me share. That's all I got.
Yeah, thanks, Hunter. All right, let's see. Who's here? Dave, you want to wait until 8?
Yeah, I should probably do that. We don't
Yeah.
want to risk having my mute turned off and having
I'm a little teapot coming on.
music playing in the background. So
Yeah, you should take your computer somewhere else.
it's comfortable here. I like it here. Okay, yeah, I'll wait.
All right, no problem. Virginia, you here? You want to go next?
Okay, I'm here.
This guy.
Okay, this was from New Jersey from May the 30th. Very fuzzy, hairy. Probably a bird's nest fungus, but I'm not that familiar with them, and I didn't really spend a lot of time with it. But I never saw one so fuzzy like that. And then here's one that's a little more open, but still pretty fuzzy. And the surface inside. Okay, this is one I sliced. And you can see it's still somewhat fuzzy, and you can see the peridial, I guess it's called, inside. But I'm not sure what species. I didn't get that far with it. iNaturalist came up with crucibulum, but I don't know. I don't have good pictures of it, so I don't know for sure what it is.
Well, that's really neat.
Yeah, I know, didn't see one that was so hairy before. Actually, there was not too far away from it, there was a definite bird's nest fungus that was open. You could see the eggs, and the inside was very smooth, and the outside was a little rough, but not hairy like that. So I don't know if it was the same thing or not.
Yeah, I think even Cyathus striatus, like the common one that in maturity doesn't have really any fuzziness going on. I think even in when they're very young, even that one can look a little fuzzy. So I think
Uh-huh. This
many
was
of these things start
very
off.
hairy.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah.
And that's all I have this time.
Yeah, cool. Thanks. All right. So doesn't look like Dorothy's here yet. Does anybody have anything they want to share? All right, Chris, we're gonna hand it over to you.
Yeah, let me grab my iNet real quick here. Uh, why is that thing? So here we go. And there was a small group of these. It's a little bit. They all seemed kind of frilly, like this one too. I don't know if that's a real difference maker in these. But it's definitely got folds running to current. And definitely not gills. This was the spore print. It did have like hinge of color to it, something maybe orangish or pinkish, but it didn't really show up in the picture at all. These little dinosaur egg looking spores. I found a couple clamp connections. This one's not that great of a picture, but just if you looked around, that's a good one. Through almost any of this stuff, they were all over the place, like more than I think I've ever seen in any other little tiny sample of anything.
Those are good photos, Chris. You can see the clamp on the other one too. You can see the clamp connection very clearly.
Yeah, like it is a, like if there was a picture of what's a clamp connection look like, this would be it.
Yeah, that's a good one. So do you think this is Craterellus tubaeformis?
Honestly, I don't know. I got a couple.
I'd say it's some sort of Craterellus.
Same. Did you use a stain on that, Chris, or is that just what is?
Yeah, this is a little bit of Congo, and then I wash it out.
So is that a basidium there? Wow, look
Yeah.
at that. Whoa. Pretty cool.
Yeah, it came out really good. There was
Yeah.
it's funny because there's a couple of them right in that row. On this one, a couple of them got more in focus. And then I measured a few, but I just didn't get into any of the sites to look into it.
There might not be a whole lot of variation in spore dimensions for Craterellus. Well, there's Craterellus tubaeformis, which I usually think of as being a late season mushroom, but you just never know anymore. It seems like weird things come up. But there's also Craterellus ignicolor. There's one called Craterellus. A word that means yellow. I forget. There's a few of them though. There's a few species of Craterellus, and I think on MycoQuebec, you can at least find a few of them. And also Mushroom Expert. Mushroom Expert has a few Craterellus species described.
But yeah, it was pretty cool. There was I don't know, maybe 5 or 10 of these, all in one little spot.
Yeah, and I think the spore print for these things is slightly pigmented, as you had explained. I'm going to look that up right now for one or two of them.
But yeah, that's all I had going on out there.
It's a good edible.
Are all for the most part the Craterellus edible?
For the most part, yes.
Maybe I'll be brave enough one day.
Yeah, isn't one of them that Dave mentioned like a winter thing?
They call Craterellus tubaeformis the winter chanterelle. But that name, I think, originates out west.
Yeah.
But I
Yeah.
usually find them later in the season. They're one of the last, presumably mycorrhizal species that I find, usually in mossy areas. under conifers. But I have seen, observations posted of what certainly looks like Craterellus tubaeformis at different times of the year. So it might just respond to certain kind of weather conditions.
Yeah.
And
It's
go
it's
ahead.
funny. We kind of had a bit of a cold snap recently. We've had like highs in the 60s after.
We have not been above 70 degrees here since last Friday. So yeah, it's
way
been
up,
it's
way
been
down
really
around
down.
here.
Mhm. Oh, and by the way, Michael Quebec says cream to yellowish for the spore print on Craterellus tubaeformis, and I imagine that you see the yellowish if you get a good substantial print, and it's actually a good idea to take a print like that also on white, because then you might see whatever subtle contrast there is to separate the print from being pure white.
Yeah, I mean, I would say if anything, because it wasn't really laying down a super good print, like the kind you have to almost like look at like across the spore print as opposed to directly down at it, and it
Yeah.
like just a tinge of maybe some orangish or yellowish.
Now Sue Hopkins explained something that Kibbe and Fatto used to do with Russula spore prints. They would take a razor blade and scrape the spores into a pile, and then you can see the color better.
That's a good idea.
Yeah.
Oh, I still have that print. I'm gonna do that.
Cool. Thanks, Chris.
Thank you.
Lila says that mushroom expert says a white spore print, clamp connections for sterigmate.
Yeah, I think there's a fair amount of misinterpretation of very lightly pigmented spore prints as being white. I mean, a lot of people will tell you bluets have white spore prints. That is not correct. The prints on bluets are very, very pale, but pigmented. I'm going to look up. Let's see what Tim Baroni says. I have his book right here.
Another thing I've been doing this week, which makes me giggle every time I do it, and if you have some slime molds, go all the way to where they go into their crusting over phase. If you shoot them with a garden hose, they just smoke. They never get wet. So give it a try, and you will definitely have a laugh.
Yeah. Tim Baroni says Craterellus tubaeformis has spores that are colorless. He says.
All right, Brandon, you want to go next?
Sure. Can you guys see my screen?
Yep.
All right, cool. Gosh, I should write down what I want to look at. So I found this thing today, and I'm at a bit of a loss with it, if it would load. So these, as you can see, they have a stipe. They're in fundibulliform, kind of vase shape, or not vase shape, funnel shape.
Funnel.
Yeah, funnel. And when I saw them, I was like, this is probably a Chalciporus or something. But it's got a smooth underside. They all have smooth undersides. And you can
So,
see,
so there used to be this species. There's a species that used to be called Tremellodendron conchifer, but now it's like in a different genus. I forget the genus name. That might
I
be
think
one
it's
you want
still,
to check.
I think it's still Tremellodendron conchifer, right?
Maybe, but I think there's been another genus proposed for this one. I'm going to look.
So these were growing on the ground. And I don't think Tremellodendron conchifer has a stipe, as far as I'm aware.
Oh,
If we're talking,
yeah.
if
I
we're,
don't think it grows on the ground either.
Yeah, correct.
but yeah, Dave, you're right. Tremellodendron conchifer, if it does have a new genus, I'm not aware of it, but that doesn't really have any kind of pore surface either. The only thing the only thing I can think of is maybe this is a species of Telephora that I'm not super familiar with. I don't think it's the one that we get kind of in the pine barrens. It's very common. But like I said, I found this today. I don't have like, I don't think I've ever found anything quite like this before. So I looked into it.
The one before this one, and zoom in, this one and this one.
Yeah, it's not the best photo. Obviously, it's very out of focus. But this was just to show kind of what the young growth looks like.
Yeah.
They very much are stipitate first, right? And then they kind of fan out in maturity.
And you couldn't see, like, you use a loop and there's no tiny pores or anything, huh?
Yeah. I actually I threw it under the stereoscope when I got home, just to see if I could, because one of the things in my very brief research, just trying to figure out what this is, there's a genus called Mycoparasite, I think it is, Microporus or Microporellus, where that's very much the case. It's like, it looks smooth, but you throw it under the loop or the stereoscope and there are the very fine pores. But yeah, even under the stereoscope, saw nothing that could be, it was smooth,
What about Cotylidia?
Cotylidia, nice. That's a name I'm not familiar with.
Cotylidia.
You said COT or D?
T
Cool.
as in Tom.
Cool.
Did you have a picture like close to the underside there?
Cotylidia, I'm reading it. It's a fungal genus characterized by small to moderately sized white to palely yet brightly colored stalked, fan-shaped to funnel-shaped fruit bodies with a smooth to wrinkled hymenium.
I have found
Okay.
Cotylidia before, and this looks a bit different. Mine was white and sort of like ribbed and ribbed a bit, but I think that's a good, I don't know how many there are, but that's a good possibility.
There are a few species, so yeah, I've seen the white one before, but not this one with the brown center.
Very cool. Yeah. I don't think I've ever come across that name before. So getting any kind of lead is always good. I appreciate that.
I'm gonna put a link in the chat to a Cotylidia species I just looked at on Myco Quebec that does have brown color toward the center.
I'm excited about this. Cotylidia, it's kind of not, people don't see it that much, I don't think.
Cool. And I'm just kind of looking it up on my phone. And did I mention where I found this? So maybe that might help me out when I'm looking at Cotylidia. This is very much like I imagine it floods when there's heavy rains. It was kind of like a swampy type of setting, and I would find them in these bare parts of this patches here, growing out of the mud, and that mud had that swamp odor. You know what I mean? So maybe
Yeah.
one of those Cotylidia lines up with that setting.
Bottomland, right?
That I'm looking at a picture of Cotylidia undulata. Looks a little similar.
Cool. All right, great. Thanks, guys. Appreciate all that. I don't want to take up too much time.
They sure are pretty, those things.
Yeah, they were really cool. I mean, like I said, when I found them in the field, it was one of those things like, oh, maybe it's a Coltricia, flip it over. Wait a second. Yeah, didn't really have an idea beyond maybe a Telephora species that I'm unfamiliar with. This will breeze through just because I'm pretty sure that's what it is. I don't see it that often, and that was the question I wanted to pose. I've seen it at forays a couple times. I think I found it at one foray, but just out by myself, I think this might be the first time I ever found Laccaria amethystina. So I'm wondering if other people find other Laccarias more often than this one, which is my kind of experience.
Well, yeah, the boring lacatta type things are much more common than these really cool looking ones. But I do find this once in a while. Find it on my property actually, in a couple
Cool.
of spots.
I find it more, I don't find it very often at all, but I find the ochra purpurea, which is pretty like that, but it's much bigger and meatier, and that's way more common. I think this is a great find that I've only seen it a couple times.
The club used to find it a lot when we walked in the Somerset County Environmental Education Center area. But that's also quite swampy and wet all the time, if that's where you were when you found it.
Yeah, interestingly, the place that I was today, it's not very swampy. It has a couple of those little patches that probably, hold water in times of rain. But this was not found in that location per se.
Okay.
This was found a little more upland, with just a bunch of oaks, a bunch of hardwoods, oaks and maples, and I think there was a chestnut in there somewhere.
So I find this in well drained areas. On my property, it's almost always been on the highest point on our property or close to it. That's very well drained. There's two of the spots I found it. There are oaks, young oaks,
Yeah.
20, 25 foot tall oaks. I did find it once by birch a long time ago in a state park, but none of these spots were swampy. These were all well drained areas.
Will this eventually take on more of that, like the Laccaria shape, like you said, like the boring Laccarias?
Yeah, they fade a little bit when they get older, but they retain quite a bit of this color.
Yeah, I have it. I have it actually right next to me. And the cap has gone more or less white. The stipe has gone more or less white, and the gills have gone. Well, they maintain their color. So
I think I had these sequenced from one spot on my property. I'm pretty sure. And it just came back, as this.
yeah,
Oh, or Steve Russell may have assigned it a coded amethystina name. Yeah, I'm gonna look.
yeah, because I'm pretty confident about the ID, but maybe there's something floating out there, huh? All right. I should probably wait till next week to show this one because I'm waiting on a spore drop on it, but I love Scutellinia, so I'll show it. This is interesting because this one, this fruiting body, over 1 centimeter, something like 12 millimeters, which that's pretty big for the genus. And there are some other things that it could be. Like from this photograph. Yeah, this is where I found it on which is where I find Scutellinia on a piece of wood that's partially submerged in a creek in this situation. But yeah, these eyelashes, the hairs, the setae, I think that's a pretty good lead or a pretty good indicator that you have Scutellinia. And note how much longer the hairs are on the margin of the cup here. Those are pretty long. And then this photo is on the very, very underside of the thing. And they're a little more, stout, not quite as long, but they're present, which is something that you want to look at for Scutellinia. Yeah, and then there you go. Big for Scutellinia, in my opinion. So I'll do some work. These things do require a good amount of work. I don't know if I've ever put a species name that I feel really confident about with Scutellinia. But yeah.
Brandon, do you have the key that Malcolm Greaves created for that?
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
the one. That's the one I'll use, and
Yeah.
he's pretty active. So I'll send this observation once I do the micro on it. I'll send it his way, and he's not shy about telling me that I'm wrong. So
Yeah.
all right, and then this is an interesting Amanita, I think. It's pretty big. I would say this cap was 2 inches wide. It stood about, let's see, probably three. The coloration of the cap doesn't come through as dark as it was. It was pretty dark brown, and the universal veil material was quite gray. I didn't make out, well, I didn't have much luck extracting the thing. It was quite bug damaged at the base. Like I could actually see things crawling in and out of holes in the base as I was trying to kind of extract this thing. But you can see that vellum material just kind of all over the soil as I was trying to take it out. So maybe kind of friable? No? Am I using that word correctly?
Yeah, it looks like it's the gray remnants on the UV remnants on the cap suggest, if not Stirp sorocula, then something close.
Yeah.
So this might be the same thing as you showed last week.
Cool.
That it looks, some of the things look the same. The ragged basal velar material, the one you showed last week had that same sort of trait. Um, I think it's the same species you showed last week.
All
That
right,
would be my guess.
cool.
So there are a few, there's Rhacopus is certainly the most common one that I find around here, but there's a few other ones. Texas Aurora, and then there's another one. I think might start with O and Olivacea something. I forget. I can't check anymore because the Amanitaceae.org
Yeah.
hasn't been functioning. So there's a lot of names you can't find anyplace else.
I don't think this is Rhacopus. Most likely this is Amanita trupioi, an undescribed species.
Yeah, I don't think it's Rhacopus either, but I think it's this might be something in Stirpsorocula, or at least
Yeah, it is. I mean, I don't know if trupioi falls in there phylogenetically, but yeah, collectively, if you look at that morphological trait, then you can say, yeah, it's in that Stirpsorocula.
yeah, that's what I'm thinking,
Yeah.
but not Rhacopus. It looks maybe the color. Well, first of all, the basal UV remnants aren't gray enough for Rhacopus. By the time the basal vulva disintegrates in Rhacopus, what it leaves behind is pretty gray, and this one is kind of white down there.
Based on the cap color, I would think there are three possibilities. Texas Aurora is one of them. I don't know if that species is found in the pine barrens, but I found it a sequence collection in the upland forest. We also have Xanthomitra, which does grow in the pine barrens. And then we have Trupioi.
Trupioi.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yes.
that one I don't know.
Trupioi.
This was not found. This was found literally almost. I found this patch of woods. It's across the street from my apartment, which is great. In Voorhees, New Jersey. So not pine barrens, in my opinion. The soil was not sandy in any way. It was mostly hardwoods with a scattered, like eastern red cedar here or there. But yeah, it did not remind me of pine barrens ecology.
Yeah, one collection of Trupioi was found at Chestnut Branch Park, which is again in it is, I think, Camden County. I forget what township it is, but it's the same essential neighborhood, same environment, between the plains, sort of, in the intercoastal plain. We stopped going in there, but that park is less pine barrensy than Scullivan Run. And Scutellinia Run again has a mixture of woods that show species in there that are completely absent from the pine barrens, like the Lixinellum and Van Maua Pallidorosea that we found in there.
Yeah, but even Scotland Run, it has a bit of a pine barrensy feel.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
That's why I was
Yeah,
surprised to see the kind of species that we don't typically find
right.
in that kind of habitat that I mentioned.
Are there oaks in this place?
What,
Sounds
Scotland
like
Run,
an
or
oak place.
where I found this thing?
Where you found this thing?
Yeah, absolutely. There was white oak. There was southern red oak. Probably a blackjack floating in there somewhere. But yeah, where I found this thing specifically, actually, it was under a big old chestnut tree. But there were a bunch of younger maples, a big white oak, and some sweet gum in there as well. But yeah, hardwood associate for sure.
Right.
And a big white oak, pretty close, Dave.
Yeah, my top two choices are Trupioi and Xanthomitra.
And then you said the other one was Texas Aurora?
The Texas Aurora.
Texas Aurora.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. All right. Awesome.
Something to do with Texas and sister, I think. That's what that name means.
Yeah, I think that's Sorora is well,
sorority.
it's the base word of sorority, right? So it's
Yeah.
like sister.
Uh,
So Rod had called one Rhacopus. He originally called something. He called it like the smaller gray sister or something. Um, a longer name than Sororcula. I remember that. It was a really long name, but that name's gone now because it's been published as Rhacopus. But this is not Rhacopus, right? I just want to reiterate. Xanthomitra. I couldn't think of that name.
Right. There's a better taxonomic description for all these gray vulva Amanitas. This is series Ceciliae, which is above stirps. It's more
Right.
visibly.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a better classification. That's
Right.
a more general classification.
Yeah.
you said it was
Because
series what?
Ceciliae after Cecil, or
Yep,
you know,
yep.
it's a feminine name. Ceciliae. Ceciliae.
Sometimes they call these things the strangulated amanitas because of the
Right.
way the basal vulva disintegrates into a ring around the bottom of the stalk.
Amanita cecilia is a strictly European species. So if you look up the Xanthomitra and Trupio, you'll find that the cap color of these collections, at least mine, are very similar to yours. So I think those are probably better choices, I think.
Awesome.
Xanthomitra means yellow hat. It's like meter, that's what the archbishop wears.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think
All
we
right.
probably got it right. That would be my. I would feel confident about these two, short of a DNA sequence, obviously.
Yeah, I mean, I have it saved. Worth getting sequenced. Yeah,
Yeah, sure. Another data point. Why not?
cool. Awesome. Thanks
Trupio
for
is
the
only
help.
known from 2 collections so far. Maybe it's more
Cool.
common.
Thanks, Brandon. All right. Dorothy, you want to go next? Dorothy, you there?
Yes, I
Oop,
sent the
there you are.
pictures to you.
Yeah, let's share my screen.
I have a creek, small creek running through my property, and I have two, on the other side of the creek, I have 2 dead slippery elm trees. And so this is your golden oyster, Pleurotus, citrino, whatever. And the next picture, but that's the cluster. But it's not easy to,
Citrinopileatus, I think.
yeah. This is the smaller clump that was on the top, and the next picture shows that clump, but also the size of the caps of the most of the other species. I just cut off the top 2, and I found an interesting recipe in the North Spore website to make a soup. So I just hope that the creek is so close to this dead tree that there's not anything coming up into the mushroom. This last picture, my husband Bill just picked a Pluteus out of the lawn, probably was on buried wood, and wasn't sure what it was, maybe Pedicetus, but if it was on the buried wood, it could have been anything. Well, so I put it down for a spore print overnight. That's this one that I'm pointing to at the top middle. And then the next morning, I just wanted to see if it still had more. I left it for an hour. I left it again for a little bit. And then I grabbed another piece of paper and put it down again the second night. And they still got that dark print. And again, it was still dropping spores during the day. Just thought that was interesting that it had so many spores to drop. But that's all.
Cool.
That's a lot of spores. It's interesting it didn't decay by
Yeah,
the, by the second night.
Yeah, by the end, it certainly, it was too far gone to even dry. But I have the stipe.
Those are really beautiful. It looks so nice.
All right, cool. Thanks, Dorothy.
Thank you for sharing the photos.
All right, so I got a few to share real quick. Found this one today out in the Pine Barrens, which my naturalist is calling the deceptive jack, Suillus decipiens. Anybody disagree?
I agree, Suillus, but I don't know decipiens to confirm that, but it definitely looks like a Suillus.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, the only
Right.
other one it would be like a really faded painted Suillus. Maybe it has sort of the same look, but I also don't really know that species.
Would you please zoom in?
Yeah.
Did we get a stipe photo or?
Yeah, I noticed that I didn't get a great shot of the stipe.
Was there a ring?
Well,
no, I don't
if it's
think there-
Spraguei, then there would have to be white pine in the area.
There was no white pine.
Yeah, so you can rule out Spraguei then.
Yeah, this looks more like decipiens to me. I can see the whitish whatever is at the apex.
Mhm.
Yeah, that thing, and that's typical of decipiens.
All right.
And this type texture and color is in line as well. Now, whatever is to the left of these three mushrooms, that could be something different.
This thing.
Yeah, yeah, that's different.
That's-
I don't think this is a Suillus.
Oh, interesting.
And I have to go back to school for the summer on Suillus, but is Hertellus out of the question here? Or Hirsudis or Hertellus, whatever it is.
Hertellus. Yeah, Hertellus has at maturity has a yellow cap, I think, for the most part.
Oh, that's right. Oh, yeah, cool.
Yeah, these have too many fibrils to begin with. Yeah.
All right, cool. Thanks.
Yeah, this type to me looks like more like decipiens than Hertellus.
Cool.
Yeah,
Right.
both are hard pine associates. They're not growing with the white pine.
Right.
Where did you
All right,
find this
not
again?
far. This was near Batstow.
Batstow. Yeah. Okay. I
Um,
usually see these things like late summer, early fall, but we had so much rain, and again, these are pine associated, so everything that's
Right.
with the pine right now is flourishing in the pine barrens. All the Amanitas, and I've seen Spraguei and Weaverae growing at Brandenburn.
Yeah, so speaking of Amanita, here's the next guy, which my naturalist is calling Muscaria, but I guess it would be chrysoblema, but I'm wondering if this might be the Persicina.
Probably not. I think this is just a rather chrysoblema.
Chrysoblema? All right.
Yeah.
Parasicina has like a really fleeting partial veil, right?
Yeah, it has a fleeting partial veil and not as well defined basal vulva.
Right. Yeah, and less structure on the
And
bottom.
more importantly, the
Mm.
cap color is this really pretty shade of pink. It's
More
not yellow, and
paler.
it's not red. It's kind of a medium pink.
Got it. And then this guy.
Yeah,
One
amerirubescens
of the
group.
amerirubescens.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, without the DNA, we cannot tell which species it is, unfortunately.
Yeah.
You know, it's funny. I found someone posted a really good write up on Reddit, of all things, of the North American rubescent type things, with links to Amanitaceae.org that is now dead. I found it the other day and I was going through it and I was like, ah, man, wish I could get to these.
That is a winning photo right there.
Yeah, we really need a lot of sequencing and morphological work to link the DNA with the phenotypic traits to try to make sense of these. And it's just a big project and not particularly exciting at the same time, as far as I can see.
Maybe a job for AI in the future at some point.
Maybe if you have trust in that.
Hmm.
In AI, I
Right.
trust.
So up in North Jersey, this is the first time I found this species, Bulgaria inquinans, which is
Cool.
wood decay on oak. Didn't collect any or look at the spores, but I don't know of anything else it could be, so fairly
That's a
confident in the ID.
Great photo.
Thanks.
Yeah, and I found this, actually Lila found it the only time I've ever seen it. Are there many species that we should consider here, or is it Inquinus?
Yeah, I think it's pretty distinct.
Yeah, I think this is what you're calling it.
Yeah.
I've seen it several times. Not lately, though.
So that was a cool find.
Yeah.
And then my last one is a Copernopsis. I'm guessing it's Stercoria just from iNaturalist observations, but it's not one that I collected. It's on Deer Scat up in North Jersey.
Wow. Delicate stipes. Those are pretty cool.
Yeah.
That one on the right, it's like see-through.
Yeah, it looks inverted too. Did it totally turn up
This one?
on the right?
Oh, on
The
the
bigger
right
one.
here, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe. This one, maybe too.
Oh yeah. Yeah, look at that.
They do that. They tend to do that. These
Okay.
small ones on dung. Also, what else you got going on there?
Yeah, there's something else here.
Yeah.
All right, is this young? Or this guy here?
The yellow,
Discoid.
yeah, the yellow, either discoid type deals or maybe like oh, yeah.
Yeah, this guy looks different too.
Yeah, I was just looking at that one in the bottom left. Like, oh, maybe you got another thing going there.
Yeah.
Did you collect it? Or are you going to incubate any of this dung?
No, I left it there. I was there for plants and I just happened to find it. So
Yeah, what name did you put on that? Or INET or somebody put on it? What do you call that?
Stercoria.
Okay.
I have petri dishes. I should throw in my bag in case I come across something like this again. But visually it matches, but I don't know to what extent
Well,
the
visually,
spores are going to separate it from other species.
visually and substrate.
Substrate probably nails this
Right.
thing.
Yeah, I think so.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there's this guy,
Ooh.
but a lot of times they say known to occur in the dung of goats and possibly that of sheep, but does that also include deer or deer close enough? Like, I don't know how comprehensive the host
Sample set, yeah.
is.
Oh, this is just
on these
another
things.
species that grows on dung that we're looking at here. Or did
Yeah,
you
same. Well, yeah, I guess different genus too. Craterellus.
Yeah.
Just looking at similar species. INET.
Oh, okay. I think that translucent cap.
Yeah, and this stem doesn't look glandular or
yeah, the
as
translucent.
frosted.
Oh, is this what are we looking at right now? Those
That's what I
trio.
called it. This see the stem has.
Oh, it's this thing. Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, the translucent cap is a Copernopsis trait for these small
Okay.
the small Copernopsis. Because there's a few other ones that get like that as well, but they're not this small and they don't grow on feces. So
Mhm.
that the substrate probably really nails this.
All right, that's all I got.
It's a cool find. Bunch of cool finds.
Yeah.
So
All right, Dave, you
I
ready?
just wanted to point out there are a few things that are somewhat similar to Bulgaria iniquinans. There's
Right.
genus Plectania, genus Plicaria. Those are kind of black, irregular cup-looking things. So I mean, it's I'm not saying you're wrong here. I don't know that species really that well. I've only seen it a couple of times, but it's just I'm just saying there's a few things. There are a few things to wonder about and check if you think
Yeah.
you find this thing.
Cool.
Wow, look at that one photo. Was that yours?
No, these are just other Plectanias.
Okay, because that was Sarco. Was that Sarcosoma? That they were shut right there in the middle.
Yeah, some of those look like sarcosomas, don't they?
Yeah, but they're calling them
This one?
calling them
No.
something. No, the one above that.
This one.
What are they calling that?
Melastoma. Plectania melastoma.
Plectania. Interesting. Because we've been trying to figure out, some of us in Pennsylvania have been trying to figure out where David Schweinitzii got his sarcosoma fruit body from. That we don't know. There's no record of where he found it, but my guess was it was actually something else misidentified, because that would be really far south where he did most of his collecting for him to find sarcosoma. But
So
that
maybe
looks
it was
like
a Plectania.
sarcosoma. So it's what is it? Plectania? Let me get full screen here. Yeah, Plectania. Interesting. Okay.
All right. So Dave, you ready?
Yeah. Go ahead. Yep. I think I managed to send 5 things, but an interesting set of circumstances around here right now is I haven't been able to get out and look for mushrooms very much because it's raining all the time. It's like rains all the time lately. It's raining now. Anyway, so this thing, is Virginia still here?
Yes, I am.
Oh, Virginia, great. Because I thought this thing was a slime mold.
Well, what's the texture like?
Oh, it's like squishy, like not much texture at all. You can just rub it right out.
Well,
But
if
I
you
but I
rub it-
but I did a little micro on it, and it doesn't appear to be like microscopically like any slime mold.
No, I saw your spores and chains. It's not, doesn't look like slime mold. And if it's
This is, I know what this is.
You know what it is?
Yeah.
Oh, cool.
The epithet is Orentacum, Orentiacum. Oh gosh, what's the genus? Let me find it.
Yeah. So that's the species is Arentiacum. What the
Yeah.
heck is this thing anyways? Like an
Yeah.
anamorph or something?
Yes, that's exactly what it is. And the
Yeah.
genus, we all know the genus. I can't think of it. What is it?
Is it Nematelia or Tulisnela?
No.
Aluria? I'm just looking at, I don't know what any of these things are. I'm just looking at things that have the epithet of Aurantia.
Oh, yeah, Arentiacum. Yeah.
There's a Hidnellum Aurantiacum.
Oh gosh, where is it?
Arentiacum. Oh, yeah, I know what you're talking about. I think I know what you're talking about.
Tulistoma, Aurantiacum?
Tulisnella?
Tulisnella, yeah.
Tulosella?
Tulisnella.
Oh,
vanilla.
Tulisnella.
Yeah,
Oh, look at
we've
that.
seen that before. Somebody's had that before.
It's also an important genus for orchids.
Oh, really? This
Yes,
thing was just on like a thick piece of wood.
Mhm.
mycorrhizal with orchids.
Huh.
Even a lot of the tropical epiphytic orchids, they need crust fungi. And I think most people know that the seeds of orchids have no food in, so they
Right.
actually are parasitized by, no, take that back. They need a fungus to actually germinate and grow. So they are actually like little parasites on the fungus. That's a good find.
Well, it certainly is interesting. I think I might still have the piece of wood over there, but on a table, but it pretty much dried up, and the the fruit bodies, if you want to call them that, were not very big. But yeah, but that looks like what I found, and so I could probably just check, the sort of microscopy you would expect, and that's either going to match or not. So it was just these chains of, I guess they're Conidia.
Yeah, as soon as I saw, when you said, I think it's slime mold, and then I saw those spore chains, like I've seen this thing before. I think that's almost certainly what it is, in my opinion.
Oh, fantastic. Well, thank you all for helping me identify this weird thing. So this is not part of an online BioBlitz. Also at Ricketts Glen State Park, they're having a month-long BioBlitz. So this species will perhaps go on their list, of things that have been found at Ricketts Glen. So
Is it well rotted wood, Dave?
pretty well rotted, yeah.
And did you know what kind of a forest, what kind of a tree?
There was no oak up there. Beech. It's mainly beech, maple. There's hemlock, beech, maple, hemlock, birch. That's what's mostly in this area.
Okay, thank you.
Hmm.
That was an interesting note, Dorothy, about the orchid associations. I know of the association with fungi, but something like this would not jump out at me as something that would be associated with the orchids.
Right, and I'm not sure it's this species, but there are other Tulisnella that are important.
Cool.
Cool. Hey, Gymnopus.
Yeah, it's this really dark one. The very dark cap, dark brown gills. You look at it and you think, how could that possibly be a, non-pigmented spore type thing? But it's the spores are. I don't know if they're pure white, but like other Gymnopus, they're very pale. So in moss, it's not a rare species or anything, but it was just sort of a nice fruiting that I found in some moss. This was
Did
a
you
little over a week ago.
did you try any KOH on the cap?
No, I didn't, but I should have. But it's a Gymnopus, and a lot of them have fairly similar KOH reactions. Although there's another Gymnopus coming up.
It goes
where-
green with KOH, is that right?
That's what I'm remembering. Yeah.
Yeah, most of them do. A lot of the small Gymnopus go green in KOH, but the spores kind of tell you it's a Gymnopus also. These really small lacrimoid spores, teardrop shaped spores, kind of a little bit elongated. So I did get a spore photo. But it's it was a nice fruiting, so I just thought I'd include it. See, they're very small. They're these teardrop shaped things, and I really need to get my microscope cleaned up. I used to take it to the college I worked at, and there was somebody came in every year and cleaned microscopes, but that person retired, so I'm kind of stuck. But yeah, it's definitely. I would be astonished if the species is wrong, but I saved it anyway because I'll be sorting through stuff at the end of this year and picking out 200 things hopefully to send in for sequencing because what's her name? Sam in Philadelphia is hopefully she's going to get a grant for herself, her club, for me and my club here in Northeast PA, and for Eastern Penn Mushroomers for us to submit 200 samples each for sequencing, and also hopefully get some stuff stored in the Philadelphia Institute of Natural Sciences in the herbarium there. So I don't know if this will be part of that, but it's a reasonably good observation of not a rare species.
Very cool.
I'll be there tomorrow night if anyone here is going to be attending that workshop on mold microscopy.
In
How do you
person.
say this is Gymnopus alcalivirans or alcalivirans?
Yeah,
At least that's what I would say.
I'd bet my maximum amount of $5 on that's what it is for sure.
Oh yeah. Well, I'm I don't know. I guess I have more money to play around with than you because my limit is $20.
Big spender.
Oh,
I once made a bet with this guy when I was in graduate school for $20, and he insisted that that it'd be $100. And when I won the bet, I only took $20.
Next.
Next.
All right, Mycena.
Yeah, this was today. So one thing that does come out when it rains constantly is Mike Inskeep's favorite mushroom. These little tiny mycenas that your neighbors see you with your face pinned up against a tree staring at the bark, and then they wonder about you. And so if anybody saw me doing that today, they wondered about me, I guess, because there were a whole bunch of these on this sugar maple right outside my back door, and it's not the first time that these have come out on that tree. So some of the photos are with flash because it was dark under the tree, and it was also a dark, cloudy day. Some of these photos are from some samples that I harvested. So I pulled off like a couple of very small pieces of bark to be able to get a few of these to photograph. And some of the photos are through a loop. And some of the fruit bodies were purplish and some of them were brown. Some of the photos that with the flash of the purple ones, they turned out looking blue, like light blue, so cobalt blue, which was kind of weird. But some of these photos through the loop show traits pretty well. So I took a lot of photos of these, and there's a few of them sitting out now to get spores. So hopefully I'll be able to get some spore photos eventually. I did not try to look at gills for cystidia or anything like that. These things are hard enough to handle,
Yeah.
Dave, remember that if you're going to do microscopy on these, allegedly, the smoking gun to figure out which one it is between the three species.
Oh, okay.
Is Calocystidia. So the cystidia on the apex of the stipe.
Yeah, years ago we would call this Mycena corticula.
Yeah, corticola is what I would call it, corticula, right?
There's
but I'm interested, Brandy, if you can put that in the chat, what those three species are.
Yeah.
Well,
yeah,
there's
so it's corticola, pseudocorticola, and meligena.
Meligena is what I called these, based on the color. Some of them being brown, some of them being purplish, mauve. iNaturalist calls them the mauve Mycena. So that's actually sort of an apt description. This picture right here, you don't see much color. This was with the flash. See, this is with the flash here. These were purple ones that ended up looking kind of light blue, which is weird. But the next photo shows some brown ones that I took with the flash, and those did not change to a cobalt blue because of the flash. They're maybe a little lighter than they were, because of the flash. But I couldn't get any decent in situ photos without using a flash, so I resorted to the flash. But you can at least see them coming out of the bark.
The stems on these look kind of dull or like frosted.
Yeah, that's probably the Calocystidia.
Whereas the brown ones look more
wet. And you know what? Michael Quebec says that it's that there have been instances recorded where more than one of these species grows on the same tree. Right. And I separated out some of the purple ones and some of the brown ones, and I'm drying out some of each, and they've been segregated. So if I have samples of these, I'm going to have two collections. I'm going to have the brown ones, and I'm going to have the the purple ones. So they might be
Yeah.
different. Yeah, you're right. This stipe is pretty smooth on these guys right here. See, there's one of the brown ones. It looks pretty smooth. So this one might not have the collocystidia. There might be a few stipes lying around.
Look at the fringe on the edge of that last picture.
Yeah, that's pretty cool too. That there's another photo of
Yeah, there.
this one right here. Do you see?
Oh.
Look at the little fringe around the margin. That is pretty cool. Yeah, I noticed that too. That's one of the brown ones.
Yeah, and you can see, and maybe there was a difference in moisture levels. Maybe this one's maybe wetter than the
Yeah,
more-
this one might just be wetter, so you don't see the ornamentation on this type. The tree was really wet. It was misty when I was out there trying to
Yeah.
get these photos.
The corticula that I found years ago also on a maple tree in my driveway. Again, it's when it's very wet.
Yeah.
And they were purple, pale purple.
Well, yeah, that half of these were pale purple and half of them were brown, and it's all on the same tree, and there would be like a patch, like see right here, there's like a patch of brown ones, and then another area of the tree would have a patch of purple. These were purple, but the flash made them look kind of cobalt blue, but they look so much different than the brown ones that it does make me wonder that maybe there's some sort of difference in the way that maybe there are two species here, and one of the things that's different about them is the way they reflect the light from the flash. But I have a few of these out for spores. I'm going to look at some spores. So I have a couple of purple ones, a couple of brown ones, and I'm drying some of each. And I don't think I mixed up the samples. I think I've got them pretty well segregated. So that last photo, there's a photo with alongside a penny. That one was the really big one. That one was like 3 times the size of most of the other ones.
dwarving the others. Yeah.
Yes, this one was gigantic. Yeah.
I'm wondering whether these are, were they on a living tree on the bark?
Yeah, the tree is living. It's old. It's not in the best condition, but it's alive. The tree is alive.
Right. Mine too. And I wonder whether these ever form on a downed log, but I don't think I've ever seen them. And they always have this curved stipe.
Yeah, Mike always finds them on live oak trees in his neighborhood.
Last week I found some on a stump.
Oh,
you did.
And when I saw them on the stump, because that's still, oriented facing down, right? Or however you want to do that.
Oh, the side of the stump.
Yep. And then
Okay.
I followed that down tree, the tree that I figured was downed, and I also found them on a log on the ground, growing out of the bark, geo-orientating. So I think they do also grow on.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
All right. Gymnopus.
yeah. So these are not in the best condition. They're old and shriveled. So I thought maybe they were Gymnopus semi-herpes. And I did try the KOH on one of the caps, and I got a dark reaction, maybe a little bit greenish, but more just going almost to black before long. So that's kind of told me they're probably not Gymnopus semi-herpes. So I got spores from one of these, from a smash mount. They were too old and dried up to get a spore drop, but I got spores from a smash mount. The spores are too small for Gymnopus semi-herpes. Gymnopus semi-herpes has spores that lengths that go over 9 microns, and the smallest ones are like well over 7. So they're like 7.5 to 9.5 or something. And these are pretty small spores, 6.5 to 7.5. And the widths were less than 4 microns. So that kind of told me not Gymnopus semiherpes. So I did a little research. I found on mycoquebec this thing, Gymnopus erythropus. And in fact, iNaturalist calls Gymnopus erythropus the red-stalked Gymnopus. And if you look at these things, they certainly do have red stalks. So I've looked for another trait. And mycoquebec explained that Gymnopus erythropus has that the surface of the stipe, if you mount it in KOH and look under the microscope, it should turn green. So I mounted a little bit of stipe material, and there it is under the microscope. This is at 100 times magnification, so it's not high mag, but it's green. You know, this is in KOH. You can see it has a greenish tint to it. So I think that's what these are. I'm pretty sure that's what these are. Now, one thing I like about Mushroom Observer is when I can put an observation on Mushroom Observer and say that I think I know what this is. You know, the one thing I don't like about iNat is it's black and white. It is or it isn't. There's like no discussion other than it is or it isn't. So I put this on Mushroom Observer as promising, right? So I'm pretty sure it's Gymnopus erythropus, which is a species I don't think I've identified before. So that was an interesting one for me.
Dave, I'm just on mycoquebec, kind of going into it. Gymnopus erythropus does not have any kind of basal mycelium, right?
Yeah, I don't know, but it doesn't have the real hairy. Semiherpes has a really hairy stalk on the lower half of the stalk. But I wonder, you know, in really rainy weather, that might, you know, you might lose that.
Yeah.
But
so I'm on mycoquebec, tomentose towards the base for erythropus, but yeah, like you're saying, conditional rain could wash that off.
yeah, and the picture is not great, but it does look like it's at least it's not totally smooth toward, you know, on the bottom half of the stalk. It's kind of a little bit
yeah,
maybe very velvety or something, you know. So
Looks like it wants to be hairy.
Yeah, it wants to be. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it sort of wants to be hairy, right? So, but this does look, semiherpes looks like this, but also semiherpes does not tend to grow on large pieces of wood like this either. So that's another mark against it being semiherpes.
Isn't that more of like a litter thing?
Yes, it's a litter thing. It's a forest litter thing, and erythropus grows on wood. So I think I've got this.
Yeah, I agree. Cool.
Yeah, I wish it was a little bit better example. But you know, but at least, you know, I was able to do enough work to at least seemingly get somewhere on it. Yeah, so I mean, all these photos look a lot nicer, you know, because they're just better examples. But you can see they all have the red stalk. You know, that seems to be a constant feature with, and the spores are small for Gymnopus erythropus.
Right. And that's what erythropus means, right? Erythro means red and pus means foot. So
oh, okay.
Red,
so
red foot.
Oh, okay. Yeah, right. Yeah. Yeah, I'm actually not very well versed in Latin, which you know, Dorothy can attest to, right? Because I'm always mispronouncing the words. I mean, the only Latin I know is what I've learned from mushrooms, really.
No one
Well,
knows how it really sounded.
Yeah, that's what that's what Britt Bunyard said in at Sequinotophore a couple of years ago. That was like one of the highlights of his talk was nobody really knows how to say the names.
Although I've sung a lot of church Latin. So
Yes,
all
yes.
the I's are supposed to be pronounced E. So that's why I say fungi kingdom. That's a Latin term.
Right. You know, Karen has been in choirs, so she's sung like these Latin songs also. So she actually knows a little bit of this as well. But who knows? You know, who knows?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm of.
How do you spell that? Erythro?
It's in the chat.
Thank you.
I'm of the opinion if we're getting it close and we all understand what someone is saying, whether it's proper Latin, mispronounced, whatever it may be, we're good.
Yeah, the point behind words is so that we can all agree on what we're talking about. So if it requires a little extra explanation from time to time because one person hears the word differently than another, that's still, you know, we're getting the job done.
Right. Marasmius.
Yeah, so now you would think that these would just be Marasmius rotula, you know, and maybe they are. But this is the third time this spring that I have found the small white Marasmius with the collared gills, which we'll see in the last photo, the pleated cap, right? You see there's a collar surrounding the top of the stipe and the gills are attached to the collar. And the stipe is sort of like a dark piece of wire. You know, all of this sort of matches rotula. And then there's another species that looks just like rotula, but grows on leaf litter. And I think rotula grows on wood, and the other one, which the name I forget. Capillarius, right? Yes, thank you. Grows on leaf litter. But this is the third time this spring that I'm finding this sort of thing on the ground. Now, maybe there's buried wood there, but this was the second time in this same location on my property that I found a little group of these growing on the ground. Now, maybe there's some wood buried there. I didn't want to dig them up. But there was another time at a BioBlitz in Wilkes-Barre, down near the river. There was a weekend BioBlitz, and a very, very similar thing was found there that was growing on a lawn. And there is a Marasmius that grows on lawns. I forget the name, but it's sort of more yellow or orange than these guys. And the other ones that I found in Wilkes-Barre, those were also white with a dark center. So I'm saving some of these.
Yeah. Are you? Yeah. You have to see what they're growing from. You have to go down and dig.
That's what I'm thinking. But even so, Marasmius rotula, even though it grows on wood, it's usually, you know, wood that's above the ground, and you can see it's attached to the wood, and it's usually small pieces of wood. But I guess maybe there's some little twigs or something buried there.
Yep. And sometimes the capillaris is, and I'm probably saying that wrong, is quite small compared to rotula.
Oh, okay. It's one of the really small ones. Right. Yeah. Oh, you know what? I think I knew that. There's a third one also. I think there's one that starts with E, I think. Echino something. That's also a really small one. But I think that one also grows on litter. But you know what? These are still on my property up in my upper yard. And I should go out tomorrow and dig underneath and see what they're coming from, because I know right where
this is a pretty robust clump with 10 caps all clustered together, and they're not in a linear row. I've never seen such a robust clump on leaf litter, and I would imagine if it was on twigs, they'd be more linear, and they wouldn't be coming out from such a
yeah.
point.
That did kind of occur to me that this grouping is sort of odd,
Yeah.
or Marasmius rotula, or the other ones, that we're mentioning. So
Epiphilus, is that the other one? Marasmius epiphilus,
maybe
Epiphyllus?
that's it. Yeah, I think it starts with E. Yeah,
yeah. Hmm.
yeah, that might be the other one.
If it's
It's
still
probably on
Marasmius.
It's a Marasmius. Yep, that's what it's up there on online. That's what it's posted as, Marasmius.
Okay.
I've got one of these lying out for spores, but I don't expect to get a lot of information from the spores because I think the spores all look the same for these little Marasmius. But you never know. Maybe I'll get some information.
All right. Thanks, Dave.
Sure, you're welcome.
All right. Let's see. Have I forgotten anybody? Anybody have anything else to share? Let me check the chat real quick.
If you have
Right,
some,
Greta.
Jason, go ahead. I have a couple.
Cool. All right.
Go later.
You can go ahead, because I got nobody else.
All right, let me make sure I got them here. Okay. Okay, can you see? Yes.
Yeah.
So we saw the amerirubescens. Somebody had one of those earlier. So here's one I took. Quite a robust stipe on this. When I first found it, I did not have a knife with me. There was a little one next to it I broke off accidentally, actually. But then I went back the next day when I had something to dig it up with. So this is the stipe, base of the stipe. Not much of a base on it, but it did sort of go down, and there was a nut hull, a nut shell at the bottom of it that it seemed like it was attached to, which was interesting. And it did seem to be bruising, kind of reddish. Here you can see the hull, some sort of an acorn, it looked like. It was very thin-shelled.
See, I wonder if the nut was in the way of the
Possibly.
developing mushroom, and that's why it doesn't have more of a thicker stipe base. So these rubescent amanitas are usually not bulbous, but the stipes are clavate, so they're widened toward the bottom. They're club shaped.
Oh, widen, should widen now. Okay, yeah, this one didn't.
Yeah, a
bulb.
little bit. Yeah,
Kind
it's
of
pretty
tapered.
equal, and it's weird the way it tapers to like almost like a
Cone point on there, yeah.
root or something. So my guess is the nut was in the way, and it
Would be,
didn't
yeah.
develop the way it wanted to. Because these are certainly mycorrhizal.
Yeah, hickory and oak in the yard where these were. So there it is, the second day, it all kind of opened up. Even the little one that I broke off had continued to open up here in the top from the day before. So I think that one is in this amerirubescens complex. I don't know why that name option isn't available in INAT. It only has Amanita rubescens. So
I think it's provisional.
is it provisional? Okay. So that was that one. This was fun.
Oh, and by the way, on INAT, you can propose a provisional name. It's just not going to show up as a header.
Oh, okay.
It'll be a field. It'll be in a field. So if you click tags, and then there's another thing called fields, I think, or it might be the other way around. But you might have to, I think I may have had to create a field called provisional name. I forget what I did, but it's there all the time now for any of my observations. I can just do a couple of clicks and fill in a field that's called provisional name.
Okay, I'll have to try to explore that.
Yeah, I'm putting in the chat. You can label something on INAT amerirubescens group.
Okay. All right, I'll have to learn how to do that better. Thanks, guys.
Just type Amanita amerirubescens group.
Okay.
You know, the
You
problem
really?
I
It'll
have with
take it?
INAT is I type in a name and then it makes it disappear, you know, and then it'll say that it should be something else.
Yeah, it seems like that's what happened to me too, but yeah. Anyway, moving on. So this was fun. This was the day after we got over an inch of rain, and it was in a real wet area. There's actually a lot of low vegetation over top, but a few of them were visible. And then once I started to look, this area was just like full of these things.
Ooh.
And they were quite interesting, and of course they were very stinky, as they should be. Pseudocolus fusiformis. And this is fairly typical of where they were growing.
Oh, I see now that this is one of these squid things, right?
Yeah, it's the stinky squid. And here are some older ones.
This was in the mix of things that Bruce brought into the microscopy workshop this weekend, and man, they are legitimately stinky.
Yeah. Yeah, especially in an enclosed space. That must be something.
Yeah, it's the first time I've ever seen one, so these are pretty cool.
Yeah. And the thing about this, there's something that looks similar. I can't remember what it's called. But instead,
Columnatus or something columnatus, that one.
yeah, I think so. The arms come down and they continue individually, whereas these arms come down and come out of a single stipe, if you will, right here. So they join and go down below the leaf litter and whatnot, and the egg. I have a better picture, I think, of an egg. But yeah, I thought
Wow,
it was
look at that. That's so cool.
pretty fascinating to see. I'd only found it once before, and it was a lot smaller, and I think there was only one. So I was stunned to find like 50 of them in this one place.
So great.
Here you can see it coming out of this egg, which is opened up looks like a vulva actually now. This one's kind of old and starting to deteriorate, but you could see the egg. And then I found a couple of eggs in this shot that hadn't opened yet. And I touched it, and some of that whitish grayish covering kind of wiped off, and you could see translucently into it and see the arms on the inside.
That's cool.
Yeah.
So does that actually qualify as a vulva? I think it would, because it's like a universal veil remnant on the bottom.
Yeah, maybe it does. I don't know. It's a good question. Yeah,
Yeah.
and here you can
Yeah.
see the outside is, what is that, concave, I guess, of these arms.
Yeah, and just going back to Dave's point, and I think you would call that a vulva. These things start out as an egg, right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
certainly looks like one, so. So that was fun.
yeah, what an amazing find.
Yeah, cool find.
Yeah, what did I say about them? All right, yeah, in a 3 by 4 meter area. Okay. All right, what else? I don't know what this is. Hopefully somebody here knows what this is. Very, a lot of tufts, fibrils tufted together on the cap here. Super distinct ring. And then this big, oblong kind of, basal bulb on it. Growing in wood chips at the base of a spruce tree. There's another shot of the ring. Gills are free.
Sort of reminds me of chlorophyllum.
It is
Yeah.
chlorophyllum, I think.
Is it chlorophyllum?
Yes.
At Mollidites or
Rhacodes
Rhacodes?
You think
Okay.
that's Rhacodes?
or Brunium.
Oh, maybe Brunium because of the color. Yeah, all right.
Well, Brunium has a bulb that is marginate.
Oh, right.
Like in
Yeah.
Amanita abrupt, that has that shoulder, like flat surface, and then it just goes abruptly down. It's pretty rare in the East.
Yeah, there's another one, but it might only be in the West, Olivacea or
Yeah,
something.
Olivacea, Brunium, or something like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
There's the
Oh, there you go. Okay, now I would
Yeah.
have recognized that. Yeah, that's chlorophyllum. The way that
Can we
cap
see the bulb,
breaks
please?
open.
Do you have an image of the bulb?
yeah, let me see. I don't think I have a great one. Old one, fresher one. They were both insect damage. This was the healthiest one, so there were 3 of them.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I think the only shot I have of the bulb is this.
Yeah. Yeah, it's not as abrupt as I thought it would be for Brunium, but it could be just, it's also crooked.
Yeah, it was right up against the side of the tree where it was growing.
Yeah, so it's malshapen or malformed, so it's not necessarily a representative bulb of Brunium.
Yeah.
Good call, Igor.
Hmm?
That's a good call.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So Brunium or Rhacoides?
Rhacodes. Yeah, Brunium or Rhacodes, yeah.
All right. All right. I will study up more on that. Thank you.
Could I see the top again? It looks like the main patches break into those fibers.
Yeah, isn't that kind of interesting how that seems to go?
Yeah,
that's
I have a single collection of Brunium that was made near Wharton State Forest. And it was growing out of some kind of a juniper. It's in the NGMA herbarium. I don't think it's been sequenced, but it was identified as Brunium monomau by knowledgeable people. So look it up. You can search, and I think the scales were dark and then pretty massive, like you see here.
When something like that's coming up, like real small, would it be that first color in the middle, that dark brown, before it opens and breaks up?
For Brunium, I don't know. Like I said, I'm not very familiar with the species, and it is pretty rare in the East. But I would call it Brunium before I would call it Rhacodes, based on that single example that I found many years ago.
Yeah, I think when these kind of things first come up, the cap is really rather compressed and looks kind of like a drumstick, like a for a musical instrument drumstick. And so it's probably, these scales probably are a result of the cap expanding a whole lot.
Does this have a green spore print?
Sorry about that.
No, only the chlorophyllum lividites has the green spore print.
Yeah,
That's
this doesn't look like that species.
I think these have white.
They're all the other ones are white spore.
Okay, they're white. Okay, thanks.
Yeah, I brought it home, and before I could do anything with it, it rotted. All right, good. Progress on that. What else? And we'll look at this quick. Auricularia polytricha. I just think they're really cool to look at. Smooth hymeneum and very finely felted or woolly, really short hairs.
Wow.
Great close-ups on that.
Thank you.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah, I think it was on a dead elm.
Yeah, so it's probably Angiospermarum.
Yeah, I think there's a new name.
Is there a new
But
name
it-
for it?
But it's also-
Angiospermarum is the one that grows on hardwood. There's a few other names as well, but I think they're mostly further south.
But no, this thing is an invasive species from Asia.
Oh,
Invasive, really?
But I still think it has a different species name.
well,
Because I have it on my elm trees also.
but I think
my
they're
dead
calling
elms.
most of those Angiospermarum. And I think that's an American species. I'm not sure.
Does spermarum have this velvety
Yeah, I think they all have
white?
that.
Does it? Okay.
Yeah, they call the one surface is shiny and the other surface is matte.
Mate, yeah. All right.
But the polytricha started out as being an invasive species. It's not native.
Oh,
Okay.
polytricha. Oh, that's what this one is. Oh,
But I still think I've seen a different name now.
Okay.
well,
It's
there's
been
also
given.
Americana, but that grows on pine. It's a conifer wood mushroom, which I found a few times. Let me look on Mycoquebec, see what they say.
This escaped from cultivation, just like the golden oyster.
Is this the one that is used in the Asian hot and sour soup or something, or?
Well, all of your, you know, wood ears are, I think, are used,
Okay,
but I certainly have some dried specimens of this, and I've called it polytricha, but then I saw another name and I can't remember it. But it's definitely not native.
not native, okay. All right. There's my Scutellinia. We'll skip that. How about this? I don't think I've shown this before. Galerina hypnorum, possibly. These were pretty small. Did I put any notes? No, I didn't put any notes. Growing in this heavily mossed area.
Interestingly, for Galerina hypnorum, that cap depression and the striations, those striations are real deep.
Yeah. Yeah, this cap definitely was dimensional.
It's got that same little umbilicate look like them ones that Dave showed. There are not many gills in there.
No, it was pretty tiny. Yeah. Oh, here it was like a chunk of firewood that got left in this really pretty wet area. This is like a depression over here. I think this even had water in it still. So, and they're growing all over this. There's one there.
Yeah, Galerina hypnorum normally is growing on moss in swampy areas, but not on wood. So I'm not like doubting your ID here, but I think possibly you might have something else.
Okay. Yeah, I can't. I don't remember if it seemed like it was attached to the wood or not, but this was. It was pretty thick moss, so could be something else. I don't know. I don't know these really. So this is just a guess. But
Well, Dave, I think you've looked at these things before. What do you think here?
he's off looking at the auricularia.
Are you shooting this with your phone or do you have a camera?
Phone.
May I
Oh, I'm
ask which
sorry, I
model?
was muted.
Can I ask which model real quick?
Yeah, iPhone 14 Pro.
Pro, okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, so there's this, this was on wood, right? You were
Yeah, it
saying
was
it's on
a
mossy
chunk of wood
Yeah, so there's one
covered
that
by moss.
Triscopa. I think Galerina triscopa grows on mossy wood, and it looks like this. I think that's the one.
Triscope.
I think
Okay.
it's triscopa. I can look on Mycoquebec, and they probably have it. I'll put it in the chat.
I'm on my hook, go back looking up Triscopa, and that looks better than Hypnorum, at least
Okay.
in my opinion.
And I think triscopa grows on mossy wood. If you read down, I'm pretty sure, because I think I found this one. I think I even may have had it sequenced.
All right, cool. I will I made a note here, Triscopa. I'll look that up and
Yeah, these are hard to
They change it.
identify. There's a fair number of them that all look very similar.
Yeah,
But
that's what
think
I was
there's the one
finding.
that grows on wood. You know, I think it's Triscopa is the one that's on mossy wood.
And in the Myco-Quebec, the first photo, especially on Myco-Quebec, it shows that kind of deeply, well, what do you want to call that? Striate?
Furrowed or striate, yeah.
Yeah, and the depression in the middle. I think that's a Triscopa thing.
Well, this looks more umbonate, but I think a lot of times with umbonate things, that umbo can kind of collapse and become a depression. So,
All right, I'll take a look at that. Thank you.
Oh yeah, I see that now. Yeah, that one's actually pointed, and it's like the opposite.
right.
So I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm wrong here.
But I do think it's a better. I either way, I do think that's a better
I
name.
think Triscopa is the one that grows on wood because most of them just grow in moss.
All right, yeah, I took that chunk of log photo, I think, because maybe I was wondering about that, if it was really growing on the moss or if it was growing through the moss. So,
You didn't do a spore print on that one?
no, I don't think so. Yeah, I don't think so.
Okay.
All right, we're after 9. I should stop.
Just one more note about the Galerina, whatever one we were just considering. That Hypnorum has more of that stretching velar material on the sipe. It's also a little taller and smaller cap, in my opinion.
Okay.
So,
Okay.
yeah, just take a look.
I will look some more. Thank you. I'm done, Jason. Did Jason go? Jason's gone.
Yeah,
Okay.
he left.
Okay. All right, I'm going to stop the record.